Well, hello there everyone, my name is Amy, this is The Opinionated Woman, and welcome to Crafty Reads, the series where I craft something and we talk about the last 5 books that I've read. This plant is really big. It's like really getting up in my grill, but you're beautiful. Okay, so for the craft for this week's Crafty Reads, or this episode's Crafty Reads, I have been working on these mushroom shoulder bags. I sell them on my website. I have a website going up at the moment. It's probably better if you want to order from me to go through my Instagram DMs at the moment, or my email, which is in my description box. I am working on setting up my Shopify at the moment, and as soon as that's live, I will let you guys know. But I've been selling these mushroom bags and they're very popular, and I have a market coming up. So I'm going to be making the mushroom portion of the mushroom bags while I chat to you about some books. So let's get into it. The first book that I read was There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Kikuko Tsumura. And this is Japanese translated fiction, and it is about an unnamed main character who basically leaves her job because it's getting to be a bit much. And she just wants an easy job. So she goes to a recruitment agency and she asks to be basically given a job that is a little bit more on the easy side. And we soon find out that, as the title says, there's no such thing as an easy job. A job that maybe on the outside looks like it might be easy. I realize I made a mistake on here. Might not actually in practice be as easy as it appears, because all jobs have their own like weird little things that make it challenging. So this book is very much like Convenience Store Woman, if you like that. That's also another Japanese fiction. And it's very, very similar in its tone. So if you like that, you'll definitely like this one. So our main character, she starts off working at a surveillance place. So she basically has to watch hours and hours of surveillance of this one man to try and catch him doing a specific thing. And then she goes through about 5 more jobs. So each chapter or 2 are broken down into the different jobs that she takes on. In another job, she is writing the fun facts that go on the back of a rice cracker packaging. And another one, she is in a forest in the middle of nowhere, like all on her own in a little hut. So each of these stories have their own like set of like different co-workers that she has to work with, has their own sort of like weird things that she has to get used to, and things that make them not as easy as they appear in the beginning. And I really enjoyed it. I loved the tone of this. It's very unique to Japanese fiction, which is very hard. If you haven't read Japanese fiction before, it might be hard for me to completely describe like the tone of this, but it's very introspective. We get to know a little bit about our character, but it's also like very observational, and I thought it was a great old time. Then I read We Are Also Good at Smiling by McBride, and for this one, I feel like the concept was far better than the actual execution. This is a novel written in verse, and it was only about a 4-hour audiobook, and I really feel like this needed to be longer in order to execute the premise that they started off with, and it would have been much better, far more enjoyable, and like better executed if she'd given herself more time to really flush out all of these different things. So we're following our main character. Wait, I need to count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're following our main character, Whimsy, and she's just come out of a psychiatric hospital. And she meets up with a guy called Fairy, and they're both kind of struggling with their mental health. This is a reality where magic exists, and her mother can do magic. And both Whimsy and Fairy have lost siblings at this point. And one point that I didn't really like was that like Fairy's sister's name is Tail, and Whimsy's brother's name is Cal, so whimsical and fairy tale. I just think it was so on the nose. I really didn't enjoy that. And there is a forest that they don't go into. Whimsy knows that if she goes into that forest, she's not going to be able to get out of it. And Fairy gets trapped in the forest and she needs to go and save him. And she goes in with a backpack that has a fairy tale book in it, that like a book that she writes fairy tales in. And she, one by one, has to encounter the different stories that she's written about in her book in order to get her and Fairy out. And she comes to a lot of revelations throughout the story. But the thing is that it's so short that we encounter the character and then swiftly move past whatever sort of obstacle they put in their way, which was really frustrating because we never got to go in depth with anything. There was never like very much high stakes when it came to any of the instances that we were getting introduced to within the story. And I just thought that was a pity. I thought that there was a lot more that could have been done with this premise. And it just like left me wanting. So I feel like her writing was beautiful, like the prose was beautiful, but yeah, left a little bit to be desired. Then I read a new favorite, and that's A Thousand Eyes on You by Mia Arderne. This is Mia Arderne's first YA novel. Her other novel was an adult one called Mermaid Fillet, which I waxed lyrical about last year. And A Thousand Eyes on You is following, wait, let me confirm the female main character's name, Kayla. I knew it was something with a C. So, oh, oopsie. So we're following Kayla and Tyler, and Kayla is very much struggling with her mental health. She comes from quite a good family, but her depression is getting really bad and she's really fucking struggling. And then we've got Tyler, who is from quite a difficult family background, and he's really struggling with his family life. And they go to the same school, but this is like the first time that they've sort of actually come together and met. And they are both finding out that they are part of, because this is an urban fantasy, they're both finding out that they are magical beings in some way. Kayla is part of the Fave, while Tyler is part of the Mer people. And we look at the difficulties that they're having in their everyday life, and then also how they are finding the links and the freedoms that their magical selves can give them, and the escape that it can give them from the difficulties of their everyday lives. And I think it's written on the back in a very, very succinct way, because I feel like I'm not summing this up very well. An edgy urban fantasy that weaves indigenous mythology into romance that'll leave you breathless. Kayla is someone that's like very much seen at school. She's got friends, she's quite popular, and then Tyler feels very invisible, and he's just trying to get away from the pain in his family. And then they realize that there are like much larger, darker, mystical things at play that they have to battle with within themselves and together. And it's beautifully done. It's really short, but like We Are Also Good at Smiling kind of failed in, this book managed to flush out all of those sides of things. It ends very abruptly. I really didn't expect how abruptly it ended, but it really works through all of these magical aspects as well as the personal lives of these characters in a very thorough way, in a very short amount of pages. So maybe We're Also Good at Smiling didn't need more pages. It just needed a more skilled writing style to like get through it. But this was absolutely wonderful. And at this point, I will pick up everything this author writes, because she's just, she just hits that head. I love magical realism. I love urban fantasy. I love South African books. And putting that all together, 10 out of 10. Then the next book I read was Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. Now, I'm currently working on a reading vlog. Usually I try to work out my reading vlog so that I'm doing the wrap-ups after I've done the reading vlog. But these are audiobooks, so it's harder for me to do that because I listen to audiobooks a lot slower than I read physical books. So I'm going to tell you the premise of this book and not tell you exactly what I thought of it, because that is going to be coming in a reading vlog. So the reading vlog premise is that I'm reading books from authors that I have disliked in the past and trying to see whether after all these years they have improved and I actually do like them now. I think I might have done something wrong with this one, but it's fine, no one's going to notice. So I'm just going to tell you what Beautiful Ugly is about. Alice Feeney I've really disliked in the past for a lot of reasons. So this is her latest release, and it's about a writer called Grady whose wife disappears. He's on the phone with her and she sees someone lying in the road, and she gets out of her car to go help this person, and she disappears, and his life absolutely falls apart after that. And he's not been able to write. He's like really destitute. He is living in a hotel, like a really shitty motel, and his publisher says to him, or his agent says to him, I've got this remote cabin out on a remote Scottish island that one of my previous clients left to me in his will. Go there, stay there rent-free, and just try and get back into writing again. So that's what he does, and he slowly starts to uncover secrets. He keeps thinking he sees his wife when he's on the island, and he starts to realize that the island is not as it seems. And that is all I will tell you. If you are intrigued as to what the blog's going to be like subscribe and then you can find out. There will be spoilers in it, but the spoilers are going to be very clearly marked, so you'll only so if you do want to actually read these books, you can skip ahead until the spoilers is not written on the screen anymore. So there are optional spoilers if you want to get into that in that vlog, but yeah, you'll have to wait for that one, unfortunately. And then the last book I read was Gingerbread by Helen Oyeyemi, and this one was a little bit of a problem with when I read it, because the thing with Helen Oyeyemi's writing is it's very metaphorical, very weird, and very fairy tale-esque. And sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know what's going on, but most of her books I've managed to keep a grasp on that. Unfortunately, I read this book while I was going through a depressive period. I'm really struggling with my sleep right now, so I'm also very, very tired. So my brain is not firing on all cylinders like I would have wanted it to be while I was reading a book like this. So I feel like I would have enjoyed it much more if I was a bit more compass mentis. But unfortunately, like, life throws you difficulties at some points. But I can tell you what it's about. We're following our main characters. What is her name? Harriet. Harriet Lee and her daughter Perdita. And Harriet is from a country that is not on maps, not in any atlas. So people don't really know that it exists. And her whole life she has grown up making gingerbread. And she has a daughter called Perdita, and she also has grown up, like, everything comes back to the making of this gingerbread and the very, like, fairy tale aspect that leads us through the story, that all comes back to the gingerbread. My golden retriever is outside and she wants to come inside, but I'm nearly done talking about this book, so she's gonna wait. So if you can hear a little whoop, 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 it's her. And at one point, Perdita makes herself a batch of gingerbread with something in it that is poisonous to her, and she ends up in a bit of a state physically. And her and her dolls sit on her bed, and her mother starts to tell her story of her life and how Perdita came to be and what her life was like back in this country that doesn't exist. And we get to see a lot of the family intricacies that go through it. This is also written very nicely on here. Influenced by the mysterious place Gingerbread holds in the classic children's stories, equal parts wholesome and uncanny. This delightful tale of a surprising family legacy. We follow the Lees through encounters with jealousy, ambition, family grudges, work, wealth, gingerbread. That seems to be the one thing that holds a constant value. So it's very like fairy tale like, and the characters are very rich and complicated. And Helen Oyeyemi's writing is absolutely wonderful. I really loved Pieces by her, and I liked what is the fox one called? Mr. Fox. it's over there on my bookshelves. So yeah, I would recommend this, and I really wish that I hadn't been in such a bad mental state when I read it, because I really think this could have been a lot more to me if I hadn't been like that. But what are you going to do? Depression's depression. And that is all. That is my crafty reads. I hope you enjoyed that. I managed to get 2 tops of mushrooms done, and then 2 of the stems. So those I'm going to put onto some squares and make one of these bags. As I said before, DM me on Instagram if you want one of these. And if you want more from me, my TikTok and my Instagram are down below, along with my Kofi link, which is a one-time tip jar if you ever want to support my channel. And my links to my crochet creations are also down there. But yes, other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll take you next time.